Well, the drought continues in the Meadowlands for the 15th consecutive season. The Jets will not play postseason ball, but the Jags will, at least if they can keep things up. These two meeting in Week 15 as Jacksonville looks to continue its win streak, and it's a 10-game season on the line for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. First time since 2017. Our Sportsline crew giving them just under a 50% shot to win the AFC South, just over 96 to make the playoffs. It's a 1 p.m. kick on CBS, and we've got our girl Tiffany Blackmon on the sideline for that one, and she's going to be joining us now to break down this matchup. Tiffany, good to see you. I want to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It has just been a crazy turnaround since the trade deadline, and they added Jakobi Meyers. All of a sudden, they're winning games, and they're primed to win the division. What more can you tell us about this exciting run in Jacksonville?
Yeah, exciting is probably the best word to use for it. And I go back to week 2 because I was on the sidelines when they had a loss to the Bengals. And so this is a different team that we're seeing. Obviously, that was a while back. But I think the important thing to note is in our meetings with Liam Cohen, all the things that he wanted to see play out, it appears that those are things that are happening. So you can start with him and his messaging. He could not emphasize enough how balanced they were going to be on offense. Of course, we've seen that run game come back. And now we've seen that passing game really starts to surge behind Trevor Lawrence. And he also mentioned how physical of a team this was going to be. And I go back to Lawrence and just his performance coming off of that win against the Colts on Sunday. And the team just talking about this was one of the best games that we've seen him play this season. In fact, his receiver, Tim Patrick, said after the game that he had full command of the offense and he was just facilitating everybody. And those were things that they had wanted to see, early on back when we had them in week 2. Play out for them this season. Even just credit to Lawrence in the way that he's been able to adapt to his third head coach in 5 seasons. That's kind of crazy when you really think about it. And he's found a way for him and Liam Cohen to get on the same page. There was a whole wristband deal earlier on in the season, how he ditched the wristband. Cohen kind of encouraged him to do that, how it helped him visualize the plays they wanted to do faster and think quicker. Now we've seen that wristband kind of come back in situational plays. So that just shows you how the two have really worked together. Again, credit to the run game, credit to their defense as well, especially in that performance where they held Jonathan Taylor, who we know who's the best rusher in this league. They were able to contain him on Sunday. They also forced, I think it was 3 takeaways. They got 21 points off of that. So I think if this Jags team can just keep it sounds simple, physicality, the defense, and being balanced on offense with behind the run game and Trevor Lawrence being able to get that pass game going now, I think they'll find a way to find some wins. Of course, these last 4 games of the season, which starts with the Jets on Sunday, but also you're going to have the Broncos that they're going to face, and that, Haley, will probably be their toughest test.
Yeah, going to be a big one. Broncos, and then at the Colts and the Titans. A lot looks different than that Texans game where everyone was fighting and people were throwing headsets. So this Jags team has come a long way. If we look at the other side of this matchup, we know the Jets will not be playing in postseason ball again. They enter Week 15 at 3-10 on the season. So it feels like from the surface level, Tiff, things are a lot like the same. But when you evaluate Aaron Glenn, the former Jet, as a head coach in year 1, what are the big takeaways after a season like this?
Yeah, well, I'll put it like this. He's the one that said it. They're playing to win. They're not playing for draft picks. So they're going to look to try to close this season out strong. I think overall, probably a great person that really seemed to sum it up was their running back in Breece Hall, who, by the way, was not practicing today due to some soreness in his knee. But one of the things he said is it's kind of a yearly thing for him to be able to evaluate the teams, but he could see the vision under AG and see the direction that this team is headed in. And, I take that as a positive. I'm not sure how the rest of the guys, in that locker room feel at the moment. We'll be meeting with the teams closer to game time this weekend. But, that is a positive for a guy that's been with this organization for a couple of seasons now. And so you look at the quarterback situation, Justin Fields, he's been dealing with the knee injury. Tyrod Taylor just suffered a groin injury in that game against the Colts. So then you have the undrafted rookie coming in, and we don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback this season or this weekend, excuse me. But there's a lot going on with the Jets, and I think it does seem tumultuous for this organization. But I take what Breece Hall had to say as kind of a positive direction that maybe they can finish the season out strong. And then we'll see what happens next year if I know they're not playing for the draft picks, but it looks like they might be. So we'll see who they end up picking up.
Yeah, well, and the good news is they got a lot of them after all those midseason trades, so they have a lot to look forward to in the future. But 2025, let's get through the season with some positives. Tiff, always good to see you, my girl. Enjoy that game. We're looking forward to seeing Tiffany on the sidelines on CBS. Let's continue the conversation with our former NFL players. We've got our defensive back, a lot of defense on the set here, our DB and Logan Ryan. I've also got my defensive lineman in Douzable. Tiffany sort of set the stage for us quite nicely, fellas. And I want to start the conversation right where we left off there with the quarterback situation. We don't know who is going to be playing yet, right? But we saw what we needed to, I think, out of Brady Cook. His first NFL appearance was not very good, to say the least. But at this point, Lige, your former team, does it really matter who plays quarterback at this point? Like Tiffany talked about finishing the season strong, but you're already kind of looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, they'll be doing deep dives into all the quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. But I mean, it does matter, and Logan can speak to this. As a player, there's a certain pride you have, no matter how the season is going. Once you go out there, I like to always say this: yes, you play for the name on the front, but more importantly, you play for the name on the back. That's your legacy. So these guys are going to continue to fight, and we've seen that Aaron Glenn has kind of brought that culture. To your point, Brady Cook, undrafted free agent, rookie, gets thrust into action because Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. That's a tough position to be in, right, for a guy that hasn't taken any first-string reps. And then you see the comparison right now. All three quarterbacks have really struggled this year, and that's kind of been the bugaboo when you look at this Jets team and why they've struggled, because the defense before Sunday's game versus the Dolphins had actually played really well over the last month. But, again, there's only so many times you can continue to go out there and stop the opposing offense if your offense is going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and not getting any continuity. Justin Fields has the knee soreness. Tyrod Taylor has the groin. So to Tiffany's point, we don't know who's starting this week. Looks like it's probably going to be Brady Cook, and that's tough against this Anthony Campanelli defense from the Jaguars.
Yeah, if I'm a Jets quarterback, I'm just playing for all 31 other teams next year, because they're definitely drafting a quarterback in that first round. They got to get it right. I don't know what has gone right, but I know as a player, when you're trading your best players midseason at the trade deadline, that is not a good season. Yeah. And I know that you're probably going to get that vacation booked this month. Hopefully you stay healthy, and you're going to play for pride, like Lige said. But it's not good at all. It's not any good feelings, because you talk about team all offseason. You talk about coming together. We're going to buy into our head coach, and then, Sauce is traded. Quentin Williams is traded, and you still want me to show up to work and do what? So now you start thinking about me. So I think Jacksonville has a team they're playing for. The Jets have me that they're playing for. Regardless, as a football player, you're wired to play your job, do your job the best you can, and go home to your family. And I think that the Jets got to be looking at the future. I don't know how much the fans want the Jets to win this game based on draft position, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I think the last time I looked, the Jets had the 3rd overall pick. Yeah. This is kind of like your Super Bowl here almost.
It is. These are my two former teams.
Are you leaning one way or the other?
It's funny, man, because I always do a post when this game happens. I believe it happened last year, but I spent most of my career with the Jets, so I always lean Jets, but I still have a lot of love for Duval County.
All right, we'll see who can win this one. Let's look at the other side of this matchup, though, with Duval County and the Jags, because we've talked about it for 2 weeks now. I had that conversation with the DD, and she told us that the turning point for this Jags team was that Texans game where everything just fell apart. Liam Cohen took the headset off. Everyone was fighting. But since then, they've rattled off 4 straight wins. They're looking for their first 5-win streak since 2023. So obviously, Lige, things are moving in the right direction here. How confident are you at this stage with what everything else is going on in that division? How confident are you they can win?
Yeah, they can win, and they could potentially win this division. Their schedule is a lot easier than the Houston Texans. But when you look at it, shout out to Liam Cohen, because you talked about it, and you know this, Logan. When you have a game like you did versus the Houston Texans, it can go left, and left quick, right? When you're up by multiple touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and you allow the backup quarterback to lead his team to victory, things can go left. He galvanized his team and kept them together. I think the biggest thing is Liam Cohen, even when he was with the Bucs last year, Logan, his ability to adapt to the personnel they have. I think that's the thing that separates him from a lot of different coordinators and coaches. He literally leaned on the run game, and more specifically the G scheme, right? Guard pull, counters, powers, physical run game. That's what Tiffany talked about, right? They want to be a physical group. He leaned into that, and that's why they've had success like they've had, because they haven't put all the pressure on Trevor Lawrence. He has not had to do it all himself. Jakobi Meyers coming in midway through the season was masterful, right? 3 consecutive games, Logan, 3 red zone touchdowns. That means he trusts him in the red zone. And in the red zone, if you've got a high clip of scoring touchdowns, it's going to lean you towards winning football games. So shout out to Liam Cohen, because like you said, after that Texans game, it could have went left.
Yeah, Tiffany mentioned in the report how she sat down with them week 2. And I called that game. I was in that meeting with them, and we got to sit down with Liam Cohen very early, and we left very impressed. And the word that came to mind after sitting down with him was accountability. He's holding everyone to a high accountability. Trevor Lawrence, right away. They talk about the wristband. Is he going to wear it? Is he not going to wear it? When he wasn't playing well, he was calling him out in the middle of the game. They traded a running back away early in the year, Bigsby, right? They had their runners that they wanted. Brian Thomas hasn't been playing well to start the season. What'd they do? Go acquire a new wide receiver in Jakobi Meyers, right? So he knows what it takes to win in this league. And look at it. We love the New England Patriots this year. We love the Denver Broncos. The Jags are 2 games behind them, right? They're 2 games behind them. And if they win out this schedule, which is very doable, they beat the Broncos, they could be the 2 seed in the AFC. And they're a game behind saying, this could be the coach of the year. And guess what? Travis Hunter hasn't been a hit this year. He's injured. So imagine if they hit and Brian Thomas came out firing like he should have been this year. Imagine if Travis Hunter was on the field, what we could be talking about. This could potentially be the #1 team in the AFC or #2 or #3 in the first year in that regime. So I know with the accountability that he brought over from LA and from Tampa, the Jags are winners, not just this year, but going forward. They got the right head coach there.
Something you mentioned I want to stay with there, the addition of Jakobi Meyers. And we talked with Pete Prisco about this on Sunday on Game Day Recap about how he's just allowed Trevor to open up and play a little bit more confident. You mentioned the 3 straight touchdowns, but also this team is averaging 30.4 points per game. Just 4 weeks ago, that was 22 points per game there. So obviously there's been some offensive performance improvements, I should say. Logan, why, and it could have been anyone, right, but why Jakobi Meyers stepping in and helping Trevor Lawrence and this offense get going at this point of the season?
You know, I had a coach, I think Mike Vrabel told us that, you know, football is like life. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's not easy. Life's not easy, but it's pretty simple. Okay, the Jags had too many drops on offense. Their receivers were dropping the ball. It's a new system, new timing, quarterback receivers, a lot of drops early in the season. Okay? They get Jakobi Meyers. What's his best trait? He doesn't drop the ball. Look at his stats. He's one of the best in the league with fewest drops in its entire career. So if Trevor Lawrence can trust to throw the guy the ball, and he's not going to drop it, that's a smart acquisition, in my opinion. Let's get the receiver that's on the trade deadline, on the trade block, that doesn't drop the ball, and see what our offense can do. He also brings accountability to the receiver room, helps some of these young receivers grow up, right? And just that alone, he'll tell you the importance of a veteran. And all us former pro players talk about how they're making the sport younger. Lack of veterans, right? But a good veteran doesn't have to be your #1 wide receiver, but he can get the #1 to start playing like a #1, right? And that's what Jakobi Meyers brought: some trust, some accountability, fewer drops, and now the receiver room's playing better.
And when you break it down, consistency, right? That's what they were missing. You talked about all the drop passes, and they brought Tim Patrick in to kind of be that veteran presence for Brian Thomas Jr. Well, they bring another guy like Jakobi Meyers, who's going to be where he needs to be. We talked about the red zone and how important it is to win in the red zone. If a quarterback trusts you, that's where he's going with the football.
And third
that's
down.
why, exactly. And Jakobi Meyers has been one of the best slot receivers in third down in the NFL since he's been in the NFL. So Trevor Lawrence has built up this rapport because he knows what he's going to get with Jakobi Meyers, where in the beginning of the year, Brian Thomas and some of these other young receivers were dropping passes. They weren't where they were supposed to be. And it doesn't fathom you, or it's no surprise that since Brian Thomas Jr. has come back from injury, his game is taking another step with Jakobi Meyers being there. And that's what that veteran presence brings into that locker room. Not only accountability like you talked about, but consistency and showing you how to be a pro. That's why BTJ has played a lot better since he's come back from injury.
Well, and I just enjoyed the path of Jakobi Meyers. He was very vocal at the beginning of the year saying that he wanted to trade out of Las Vegas, but he showed up each and every week. He played up until he was traded. He was dedicated to the Raiders, so it's cool to see that reflected now with his new team. All right, this game kicking off Sunday, the Douzable Bowl, 1 o'clock on CBS. We got to get some picks in this one. Logan, I'll come to you first for an outright pick. Who wins the game?
Should I make it dramatic or get straight to it? I'm going with the Jags. The Jags got a lot more to play for. This could be one of the Jags make the playoffs. They can make some noise in the playoffs. That's how well they're playing and how well that coach has them playing. This is clearly the Jags for me.
On Twitter, it's not to cut you off, Lige, but the Jaguars already tweeted out that they're selling playoff tickets, and they've said, like, I know, don't
tell us how you really feel. Tell us how you feel.
Ahead, but just in case the season ticket holders are looking, they are on sale there. So, anyways, Lige, what you got for us?
I'm gonna pick against the spread. And I'm going with Duval. Shout out to my guy Liam Cohen.
So, man.
For everything Logan talked about, right, this team is hitting their stride at the right time. I talked about how physical they are in the run game. Well, we saw what the Dolphins did in their rushing attack versus Jets this last week. Jets have actually been playing really good against the run, but they got stifled in that run game. The physicality of the G scheme, the counters, the powers, they're going to keep continuously run downhill, and then we'll see Jakobi Meyers in the red zone become effective. And then to the point that we talked about earlier, Logan, we don't know who's playing quarterback for the Jets. It could be Brady Cook, and if he's going against his Anthony Campanelli defense, it's going to be tough because he's going to give him so many different looks. He's going to disguise, he's going to give him sim pressures, and he's going to bring pressure, and then he's going to let those 4 rushers get after him. So I am taking the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, Duval, minus 12.5.
Let the record show we are required to put these on sale, but that shouldn't stop you from securing your seats early. The Jacksonville Jaguars are full steam ahead to
4 weeks left in the season. That's how you feel?
They are 12.5-point favorites in this one, expecting them to get a win, but we'll have to see it all play out. Fellas, appreciate your time and your insight. Lee J, I don't know who you're going to be cheering for this Sunday, but I know you'll be watching this one up close. We have such a stacked slate of NFL action coming your way this Sunday on CBS. The rematch between the Bills and the Patriots, with the Bills the current #1 seed in the AFC. You've also got Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals, and then even in that late window, will we see Phillip Rivers come back and play against that Seahawks defense? And of course, all eyes on that Packers at Broncos game. Check your local listings to find your game, and as always, it is streaming on Paramount Plus.